Good evening. I'm Chris Matthews in Washington, wishing everyone celebrating Rosh Hashanah a very happy New Year. Now let's get started with the Republican candidates' views, or at least expressed views, about the poor. They believe they are victims. They believe the government has a responsibility to care for them. They believe they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, you name it, and that's an entitlement. They will vote for President Obama no matter what. That's how he expressed those views. This Romney was not for public consumption, however. He was talking early this year to a wealthy group of supporters. He was talking about that other America, the one that he said Obama was serving when he dumped the work requirement for welfare. What does it tell us that Romney not only runs TV ads playing to this stereotype, but he uses it to perk up his financial backers, his wealthy contributors? What does it tell you that he says this, that the poor of this country are just freeloaders off society? What does it tell you that he says that the bulk of Obama's political support is made up of such freeloaders? David Corn is Washington bureau chief for Mother Joan. He's also the author of Showdown, which comes out in paperback tomorrow. Joan Walsh is with Salon. She's the author of What's the Matter with White People. Both are MSNBC analysts. Let me go to David. You've uncovered this. You put it out in the video, which you've found, and it's released just now. Romney has some pretty shocking things to say about that. 47% of the people, he says, will definitely vote for President Obama this November. Let's watch, listen, and decide.
Last 3 years, all everybody's been told is, don't worry, we'll take care of it. How are you going to do it in 2 months before elections to convince everybody you got to take care of your son?
Well, there are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what. All right, there are 47% who are with him, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they're victims, who believe that government has a responsibility to care for them, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it. But it's an entitlement, and the government should give it to them. And they will vote for this president no matter what. And I mean, the president starts off with 48, 49, 43. He starts off with a huge number. These are people who pay no income tax. 47% of Americans pay no income tax. So our message of low taxes doesn't connect. And he'll be out there talking about tax cuts for the rich. I mean, that's what they sell every 4 years. And so my job is not to worry about those people. I'll never convince them that they should take personal responsibility and care for their lives. What I have to do is convince the 5 to 10% in the Senate that are independent, that are thoughtful, that look at voting one way or the other, depending upon, in some cases, emotion, whether they like the guy or not.
Now, this was a fundraiser earlier this year. You can't say exactly where. How long ago was it?
It was after he clinched the nomination.
Okay,
I can say that. I'm protecting the source of the video. And to me, what's striking about this is not that he's just saying that there are poor people out there who want handouts and are entitled to believe they're entitled to food, health care, whatever, and that they're going to support Obama. He says that that all of Obama's supporters are moochers and that they're parasites, and that he has to get the 5 to 6% who are independents, and combine them with the Republicans. And what he's really doing is saying there are two Americans. There are us strivers in the room, people of success who take personal responsibility. Then 47% of this country won't take responsibility for themselves, and they want a handout from government. So it was beyond dog whistles. It was beyond using welfare. And it seemed to me he was talking to people privately, only a couple dozen people in the room. He was saying what he believed about half of America. He showed a lot of disdain and contempt for his fellow citizens.
We have joining us Andrew Mitchell right now, NBC News. You know, this strikes me as sort of like with Barack Obama 4 years ago with that clinging to guns and religion. Most politicians have the old habit they've got a break of talking to a small group of people, in this case some very well-off people, talking in that cultural sotto voce way. We know about those other people. Now, we don't all politicians don't do this. Some do. They get caught speaking in a way that would be terribly embarrassing to have those 47% hear them described that way as moochers, basically.
Well, a couple of points. You referred to the fact that President Obama, when he was running against Hillary Clinton, it was during the Pennsylvania primary. He was in San Francisco. It was audio, not video. And he spoke about people who have lost their jobs or are facing unemployment and cling to their guns, their Bibles, their religion, and feel an antipathy towards people who are outsiders or other-like, and therefore oppose free trade and immigration. So it was very damaging to him, and still is damaging to this day. Here you have Mitt Romney caught in a similar circumstance on video.
Okay, what was his perspective talking to this audience in this thing we just captured, David just captured?
It's hard to imagine or to conclude, I should say, what is in his mind. Partly, he could be saying, look, I need your help because 47% of the people will never support me because they support Obama, President Obama, because they rely on government, because they have this attitude towards government. It could be that he is speaking as a pundit. This is his analysis of the battleground. I'm just giving you one benign explanation. But clearly, it is damaging.
Well, it would be a right-wing pundit. I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
Because you're basically... Let me bring Joan in here. Joan, just your feeling. When I saw this, what I saw... I've always talked about the dog whistle, if you will, where you run ads about welfare without work. And then Romney went out and further said that he was doing that, the president, to shore up his base. In other words, getting rid of the work requirement to help the poor blacks, I guess, to vote for him. And here you have a guy talking to people, it seems to me, in a similar fashion, saying, well, you know, those people, they're just basically living off government. They'll never change. I've got to work with you and the independents. Was he playing to them, or is he believing that?
It sounds to me, I think that Andrea is just much kinder than I am to give him the benefit of the doubt. It sounds to me very much like he believes it. It doesn't sound to me like he's playing a role at all, Chris. I cannot see into his heart. But the really astonishing thing is what David said, that he is writing off. He is talking about one half of our country with utter contempt. He's writing them off. He's talking about them as parasites and moochers. And the rare opportunity for the Democrats here, Chris, is that he is talking about a large segment of the Republican base. Like it or not, there are a lot of white people, older white people in that category as well. So they've gone from stigmatizing, calling him the food stamp president and doing this dog whistle stuff, to now it's just crystal clear. You know, there just aren't that many. I think the country's about 12% black. So if you're talking about 40% of the 47% of the electorate, you're talking about a hell of a lot of white people. So it's contempt for everybody. It's equal opportunity contempt, Chris. It's hugely damaging.
Well, here making that point, Joan, is Jim Messina of the campaign has put it out. Here's the statement he's put out about Romney's comments in that tape David here pulled out. It's shocking that a candidate for president of the United States would go behind closed doors and declare to a group of wealthy donors that half the American people view themselves as victims entitled to handouts and are unwilling to take personal responsibility for their lives. It's hard to serve for president as president for all Americans when you're disdainfully written off half the nation. Let me just read a line here that's probably troubling to a lot of people. It's not my job is not to worry about those people who we can never convince they should take personal responsibility and care for their lives. Now, he's basically saying, Andrea, this Romney speaking there, how do you deal with that? How does anybody interpret that except
that is, I think, the most damaging part of it, because he is suggesting not only that he can't get their votes, but that he has no responsibility to them as a future leader. Now, let me just say, as Joan just pointed out, that most people on food stamps are white. Yeah. So he's speaking to a very broad segment.
But when he's talking to white people, that's not how they see it. Let's take a look at it. Let's be fair. Let's get the Romney campaign. It's released its statement as well on the video. Mitt Romney wants to help all Americans struggling in the Obama economy. As the governor has made clear all year, he is concerned about the growing number of people who are dependent on the federal government, including the record number of people who are on food stamps, nearly 1 of 6 Americans in poverty, and the 23 million Americans who are struggling to find work. Mitt Romney's plan creates 12 million new jobs in 4 years, grows the economy, and moves Americans off of government dependency and into jobs. That's a general statement. It doesn't quite refute whatever damage is to be made here.
It can't refute. These are his words. I think you picked out one of the key sentences for a guy who's running to be president, who says we have too much divisiveness in this country, and I'll be president for everybody. He's writing off 47% of the public, saying, I can't convince these people to take personal responsibility for their own lives. What do you want me to do?
Okay, let me go to Joan. Let me go to political ramifications.
But the statement, I just got to say, the statement here doesn't take issue with the tape, with what he said, doesn't challenge the legitimacy.
Okay, let's talk about that tape. Let's talk about that tape. Is it your guess or estimate now, Joan, that the Democrats, the campaign of Barack Obama, will get this tape out because it will enrage the base, if you will, people who are being disdainfully talked about here as handout, moochers, whatever you want to call them, freeloaders, being described in that relatively tough language by a candidate for president. Will that be useful in the Obama campaign?
I think it'll be hugely useful, and they'd be crazy not to use it. I think it revs up the base. But as I said before, Chris, it also gives them a chance to talk beyond their own base, to talk to the Republican base, which too many white working class voters have basically taken this bill of goods that the Republicans are going to help them when all they have to offer is tax cuts, and all they do is pit people against each other.
Out of time. Thank you so much. This is a big story. Andrea Mitchell, David Corn, and Joan Walsh.